Good evening. We begin tonight with that historic breakthrough in the push for peace in the Middle East as new details emerge about the Phase 1 terms that both Israel and Hamas have agreed to. President Trump tonight also announcing he'll travel to the region soon for a signing ceremony in Egypt, calling the Phase 1 plan a quote, Phase 1 of the plan a quote, momentous breakthrough. So here's what we know about Phase 1 right now. Along with a pause in fighting, the president says Hamas will release the hostages Monday or Tuesday. Israel has also agreed to release thousands of Palestinian prisoners. News of the deal leading to celebrations like these in Israel and Gaza. Both sides hopeful this marks an end to a brutal two-year war. And moments ago, the Israeli government officially approving the ceasefire deal. But the big question remains, what's next on the path to peace? We have team coverage tonight. We start off with Garrett Haake at the White House.
2 years after the Hamas terror attacks that sparked Israel's bloody war in Gaza, tonight President Trump celebrating his landmark agreement set to bring it to an end.
It's something that nobody thought was possible, and we're going to end up having peace in the Middle East. Who would have thought?
It's a major diplomatic victory for President Trump. Israel and Hamas both agreeing to his peace plan.
The hostages will be coming back Monday or Tuesday. I'll probably be there.
All of it following a momentous 24 hours, from Secretary of State Marco Rubio passing that note in front of the cameras to Trump's call moments after the announcement.
What do you guys have to say to President Trump?
Breaking the news to families of hostages held by Hamas.
The hostages will come back. They're all coming back on Monday.
All of them.
Rubio today outlining key turning points in the negotiations. The president selling his plan to leaders of Muslim-majority nations at the UN last month, and getting Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to accept it at a White House visit. Then delivering this ultimatum to Hamas to get on board.
I have a feeling that we're going to have a positive answer. But if not, as you know, baby, you'd have our full backing to do what you would have to do.
The president tonight saying the deal offers new hope for Gaza.
You can't live right now in Gaza. We're going to create better conditions for people.
But there are still key unresolved issues, including will Hamas disarm and who will run Gaza.
The first thing we're doing is getting our hostages back, okay? And that's what people want. Anything else, they wanted these hostages back that have lived in hell like nobody has ever even dreamt possible. And after that, we'll see.
All right, Garrett joins us tonight from the White House. Garrett, we know President Trump is heading to the Mideast, and I know you have some new reporting about U.S. troop deployments to Israel as well.
Yeah, Tom, the president was invited today to speak to the Israeli legislature and said he intends to do so early next week, likely on Monday. And tonight, two senior U.S. officials said there would be some 200 U.S. troops involved in this broader peacekeeping effort. Initially, it sounded as though they would be deployed to Israel specifically. Now it's not clear whether they might be elsewhere in the region. We know where they won't be is in Gaza itself. Those U.S. officials say the security component inside Gaza is likely to be handled by some of the regional Arab neighbors like Qatar and Egypt, Tom.
All right, Garrett Haake leading us off tonight. And Phase 1 of this plan sparking celebrations across the region as communities in both Israel and Gaza are hopeful this deal could mean peace. Our Richard Engel is in Jerusalem tonight.
For the first time in recent memory, tonight both Israelis and Palestinians are celebrating the same thing: the arrival of President Trump's peace plan. In Tel Aviv, the long, somber hostage square was transformed, with Israelis singing, waving Israeli and American flags, and it's clear who many credit for the breakthrough. They are cheering not for victory, but for peace and closure. Michael Iluz wore a T-shirt showing his son Guy. Guy was at the Nova Music Festival when Hamas attacked on October 7th. He called his father, who jumped in his car and rushed to save him. Michael arrived 15 minutes after Hamas kidnapped his son. Now he's waiting for his remains.
This must be such a complex day for you.
It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare for me. I will be, for sure, I'm going to recognize my son. I want to touch his bone. I want to be able to know that I'm going to make closure.
In Gaza, similar mixed emotions, with celebrations that are more like relief. Local health officials say more than 67,000 Palestinians were killed in Israel's war on Hamas. Rind al-Nawajha, like nearly all Gazans, was displaced from her home. I am happy today is the ceasefire because my father was killed, and now I will be able to go home and kiss his grave, she said.
Richard Engel joins us tonight live from Jerusalem. Richard, walk us through the timeline for the next few days here and how this hostage release will work.
So the Israeli government, Tom, has just formally approved the deal. So now the Israeli military has 24 hours to pull out of parts of Gaza. Then Hamas has 3 days to gather all of the hostages and hand them over. And if this goes well, phase 2 begins, which is even more complicated concerning the future of the Gaza Strip, who will govern after Hamas, and we'll learn more about this international security force that the Pentagon has now said it will support by sending those 200 troops to Israel, not into Gaza, but to help coordinate the effort.
All right, Richard Engel with the first phases of this peace plan. Richard, we thank you. Joining us live tonight is Ruby Hen. His son Itai was the youngest American hostage taken by Hamas. He was serving in the IDF on October 7th, and his family has been waiting for this moment, hoping his remains will be returned as part of the first phase of the peace deal. Ruby, I thank you for joining us tonight. I spoke to you right when this news broke last week. How are you feeling right now?
I think it's a mixed bag of emotions, Tom. You know, on one hand, there's the excitement that you saw people wanting to see this vicious cycle of violence end from both sides. Anticipation that finally we will see those 48 hostages back, but also some anxiety because the deal is built in such a way that Hamas's best effort to get all of those 48 out, and it might be a situation where my son, for example, a U.S. citizen, might not be found and be left behind. So we still have that anxiety, making sure that they're able to bring all of them out.
Ruby, explain that a little more to me. Some people may not be familiar with sort of the machinations of phase 1. Explain to me why you think this could possibly happen to your family, because I can't imagine if that were to be the case. You've already suffered for 2 years. I would hate for you and your family to have to suffer anymore.
Yeah, so the deal is built in such a way that the 20 living hostages, they are counted for and most likely will be able to come out. But when it comes to the remaining 28 hostages that have been defined as deceased, my family actually is still challenging that piece of information. Hamas are in a best effort type of process where they said that they will do their best to find those and bring them out. But is also the possibility that some of them are not found. And as such, there is a mechanism that was put in place, a task force, multinational task force with the U.S., Qatar, Egypt, and Israel that are tasked with finding those that are not found. So it could take a few weeks, could take a few days, or they just might not found them.
Right. Ruby, throughout this process, at times you have been critical of how Prime Minister Netanyahu and other Israeli officials have treated the hostage families. Does this deal change your opinion in any way?
Look, at the end, I'm a business guy, Tom, and Netanyahu was the CEO when October 7th happened. He has an obligation, a responsibility, and a lot of the families question, getting to this point, did we need to wait 2 years for that to happen? I've been talking a lot, even with the previous administration, about the need for an international summit. You get all the people together in one place, you hammer out the details and you get a deal. And, just asking ourselves, maybe this could have happened 6 months ago, maybe a year ago. We welcome the Prime Minister for finally understanding, getting us to this point where he understands total victory is not victory over Hamas, but actually bringing the hostages out, all of the hostages out. That is the true victory that the people of Israel are waiting to see. And myself, as a U.S. citizen, we've been asking the previous administration to get all of the 12 U.S. citizens that were taken out. That didn't happen. Mr. Witkoff came with the president and his America First policy. Getting American citizens out is a priority of this administration. Just last week, we saw a U.S. citizen from Afghanistan held by the Taliban come out. And when we met Steve in May, last year, May earlier this year, we had hopes that he would be able to get all of the U.S. citizens out when he brought Idan Alexander out, U.S. citizen from Tenafly, New Jersey. And, he took me and my wife aside when he came to the hostage square, and he looked me in the eye and he said, "Look, just isn't your time." And he said to me, "Your time's coming, I promise you that." And I hope to God that indeed this weekend or the beginning of this week, Steve will look me in the eye again and say, "Look, it's your time now. Here's your son."
Ruby Hen, we hope that so much for you and your family as well. We thank you for always talking to us, and we know this is a difficult time, but again, we have so much hope for you and your family, and we'll be covering this day by day. We thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tom. God bless.
Now to our other breaking news that we're following tonight. A federal grand jury indicting New York Attorney General Letitia James for alleged bank fraud and making false statements to a financial institution. This coming after President Trump publicly called for the Justice Department to bring charges against James, who won a judgment against him for hundreds of millions of dollars that was later overturned. NBC's Laura Jarrett has more details.
Tonight, New York's Attorney General Letitia James indicted by a federal grand jury, a dramatic escalation against another longtime foe of President Trump. Just weeks ago, he called for James's prosecution after lambasting her for years.
You have an attorney general who's a total stone cold crook, New York State, Letitia James, a total crook.
Tonight, she faces charges of bank fraud and lying to a financial institution, prosecuted by the same office in Virginia that brought the case against former FBI Director James Comey last week. James saying tonight she did nothing wrong, and this is payback.
These charges are baseless, and the president's own public statements make clear that his only goal is political retribution at any cost.
Interim U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan saying in a statement, no one is above the law. The charges, as alleged in this case, represent intentional criminal acts and tremendous breaches of the public's trust. The indictment alleging James falsely represented a home in Virginia was her secondary residence to get better loan terms, while in fact, prosecutors say she intended to rent it out as an investment property. But the top prosecutor in the district was ousted late last month after he concluded there was not enough evidence to charge Comey or James. She became a prime target of the president after successfully suing Trump, his sons, and his namesake company with fraud, securing a $500 million civil judgment against his real estate empire last year. But some Republicans always viewed the case as political, and that eye-popping penalty was recently overturned on appeal as excessive.
Okay, with that, Laura Jarrett joins us now live here in Top Story. So, Laura, a court will decide the merits of this case. Regardless, this is going to affect Letitia James in a major way. She's going to have to hire a team of lawyers, and she's going to have to go through the process.
She's already hired those lawyers because she knew for a while she was under investigation. Remember, the former U.S. attorney quit over this case, and so we've sort of known for a while it was headed in this direction, but we now have some more details. And she's still the Attorney General of New York. She'll have to go in that courtroom. She'll have to put in her plea, which we would expect to be not guilty. She'll have to go through all the booking process, all the normal legal steps, and we expect that first appearance in court in 2 weeks in Virginia.
All right, Laura Jarrett for tonight. Laura, we thank you. Yeah. Breaking tonight, also, a federal judge temporarily blocking the deployment of National Guard troops in Chicago. It comes just hours after the National Guard was deployed to an ICE facility just outside. It comes as tensions flare over the immigration crackdown. Look at this. New video capturing a man smashing the back of a window of a moving DHS vehicle. NBC's Maggie Vespa has more of this, and she joins us tonight from outside the Broadview ICE facility. Maggie, walk our viewers through what you're seeing there and what this ruling means.
Well, Tom, that video that you showed at the top there of those National Guard troops kind of behind this fence, which you can see behind me, that was video that was shot today. And as you said, basically that was new overnight. It continued throughout the day. We could see those National Guard members outside this facility, some on the roof at times. We haven't seen them since this ruling came down, but that doesn't mean they're still not there. And as far as what this means for their immediate future, it remains to be seen. This ruling came down late today. This judge saying, this federal judge, that she's going to grant the state's motion for, in their words, a temporary restraining order. We don't know for how long, against the Trump administration to bar the deployment of troops, again, some of which have already been deployed. So it's kind of a messy situation. The judge saying, quote, the National Guard will only add fuel to the fire that the defendants, meaning the federal government, themselves have started. So in other words, saying this would only exacerbate the situation. But yeah, we have hundreds of troops here on the ground as it is. We were told we have roughly, according to court documents, 300 more from Illinois that are kind of on deck to be deployed. Obviously, they haven't been yet. But as far as what this means here at this ICE facility, we'll see how quickly these troops presumably roll out in the wake of this hearing that just came down in the last hour or so.
And Maggie, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said today her department would buy property to operate out of Chicago and other cities. Could this signal an escalation in the fight over immigration over there?
It could. I mean, it was something that she openly told the president, letting him know this was something they were eyeing. She didn't name specific properties. She didn't say in the Chicago area or in the city of Chicago or kind of give any indication there. But it was definitely something that raised a lot of eyebrows here in the city as this battle escalates. And in fact, if we could bring back that video that you showed in the intro, Tom, of the cell phone video of the protesters today smashing the back windshield of that vehicle that's owned by, we're told, the Department of Homeland Security. This was a protest that was happening outside the city of Chicago. If we have that video. But either way, it's just one more example that DHS has said is showing attacks, an increase in attacks. There it is, on federal officers, on Border Patrol officers and ICE officers. And that's been the Trump administration's rationale for bringing in the National Guard, right? That's what they said. They had to come in. They had to guard federal personnel. They had to guard federal buildings. So that happened today, just hours before this ruling. So you kind of see both sides ratcheting up whatever kind of tools they have in their tool bag to really walk their argument forward and try to either deploy the National Guard on the federal side or get them out of here as quickly as possible on the state side. Really, just the temperature here keeps rising, frankly, Tom.
All right, Maggie, that's before us. We're also tracking that powerful nor'easter set to slam the East Coast this weekend. Right now, millions from the Carolinas up to Maine are bracing for coastal flooding and high winds. It could get worse from there. South Carolina already getting a hint of what's to come as drivers in Charleston deal with high tides inundating streets. I want to get right to NBC meteorologist Bill Cairns. Bill, this is going to be a little heavier and a little more serious than we first thought, right?
Yeah, this storm in the last 24 hours has trended closer to the coast. So that means the core of the storm, the highest winds will be right at the shore, and that means higher waves. That means more coastal flooding and more wind damage, too, and even some rainfall problems, all the way through the I-95 corridor. So let's take it through it. So this is going through Saturday morning. As during the day Saturday, the worst of the weather will arrive in the Outer Banks. This is not going to be that much worse than, say, some of the glancing blows you got from some of the hurricanes. The area of greatest concern is going to be from Virginia Beach, Norfolk, up through Maryland, Delaware, all of coastal New Jersey. This is 4 p.m. Sunday. This is when the peak damage will be occurring from what should be an exceptionally high tide as we go throughout early Sunday afternoon. Just to give you some perspective on this, the forecast just out for Atlantic City is only 6 inches lower than it was for Hurricane Sandy. And so, all of a sudden, you start making a comparison like that. That gets everyone's attention. People are going to be yanking boats out of the water up and down the mid-Atlantic areas. People are going to need to rush to completion. You got about 48 hours before the storm arrives. And the storm does a loop-de-loop right off the Jersey-Maryland shore all the way through Monday. It'll be weakening as that happens, but we could see some areas in the Jersey shore with 40 to 50 to 60 mile-per-hour winds for 36 straight hours. So there's still leaves on the trees. We're going to have a lot of power outage problems all the way up through Long Island, maybe even southern Connecticut, too. So this is the wind gust forecast for the Outer Banks. You can handle this. You can deal with this. Starts getting a little more serious when we get to Virginia Beach. Then when we see these 50-mile-per-hour gusts all the way through Wildwood, Atlantic City. I think tomorrow when we take a look at this forecast, we'll start to see 50, maybe even 60-mile-per-hour gust forecast for Long Island. The forecast has the storm going further north. And in addition, the heavy rain forecast is now with us. Yes, we're in a drought, so we can deal with a lot of water, but this is some hefty rainfall totals. And if high tide coincides with when the heaviest rain comes, then we could see water levels even higher, Tom. So,
all right.
Yeah, a lot of issues.
Bill, I forecast you being very busy over the next few days.
Yeah.
All right, man. We are back in a moment with the devastating fire in Colorado tearing through a shopping center and several businesses destroyed. What we're learning tonight. And Drake versus Kendrick, a judge putting an end to what she calls one of the most, quote, infamous rap battles in history. The defamation suit decision tonight will explain. Plus, the social media prank. Have you seen this, leaving families on edge? Teens across the country sending photos just like that to their parents, showing fake AI-generated intruders. What police want you to know tonight. We're back now with a warning from police departments about a new social media prank. People using AI to generate images of a stranger in their house and sending it to loved ones. The prank prompting many to call 911. Ellison Barber has this one.
Get the guy out of your house. This October, a frightening new prank taking over social media.
Get that man out of my house. You don't know him?
Across TikTok, people generating AI images of a stranger in their house and then sending the photos to their loved ones.
Why are you just letting random people in our home?
Wait, he said he was your friend from college.
The pranksters texting things like, he says he knows you, and I told him he can take a nap, sending their families into a panic.
You have gone too far. I will not take this.
A video came across my feed and I was like, that's hilarious. I need to do that on my husband.
Ray Spencer's video racking up more than 5 million views.
I just took a couple pictures and I was just like, oh, insert a random man in my front door or on my couch or in my bed. And it was really funny.
Quickly wrapping up the prank before it went too far.
He was like, I'm shaking. Like, he showed me his hands and they were shaking. I was like, it's just a prank. We just like messing with each other. So I didn't think that he would like leave work and call the cops or anything.
But others have, and police say this is no laughing matter.
I was just trying to mess with my mom and she took it seriously. No, there's no one.
Calls are ranked in priority, and something like this would be a high priority.
Police departments across the country saying they're getting 911 calls from parents thinking their child is actually in danger, worried of a possible intruder.
Call the cops right now.
It causes a pretty aggressive response for us because we're worried about the safety of the individuals in the home, which could mean clearing the home with guns out. It could mean making call outs. It could cause a SWAT response.
Round Rock Police Department in Texas saying they've responded to multiple home invasion calls that stemmed from texts like these.
I'm going to call the police. I don't know who that is.
You can hear the stress in Mom's voice. Mom believed it was real. It wasn't a prank to Mom, and Mom was trying to get there as fast as too. Mom was in a hurry to get there.
Police issuing a warning to users that pulling pranks like these,
Dad, I'm just messing with you. It's AI.
could result in criminal charges.
And Tom, while the police department we spoke to chose not to file charges, another department posted that they did charge 2 juveniles in connection to the prank. They're encouraging parents to talk to their kids about trends like these and the possible risks that come with them. Tom?
All right, Elson Barber for us. Still to come on Top Story tonight, the massive cyber attack impacting Discord. The platform saying ID photos and other info might have been leaked. What users need to know tonight. Plus, the latest on the standoff in D.C. over the government shutdown. My conversation tonight with Speaker Mike Johnson about the impact on Americans and whether lawmakers are any closer to a deal. But first, Top Story's top moment and the heartwarming display of sportsmanship at a youth football game in Arkansas that is capturing hearts. 8-year-old Big John Lyles has autism and started a new school this year. And his nana decided to sign him up for the football team. Well, at a recent game in the last play, John got the opportunity to score with the support of both teams on the field. Take a look.
Go, John, go!
So great. Big John ran 85 yards to score that touchdown. What a run, with players from both teams cheering him on there, giving way to something much bigger than football. All right, stay with us. More Top Story on the way. We are back now with day 9 of the government shutdown and the chaos on Capitol Hill intensifying. Made-for-TV confrontations like this in the halls of power becoming more and more common. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries getting into a heated discussion with New York Congressman Mike Lawler, and Senators Mark Kelly and Ruben Gallego facing off with House Speaker Mike Johnson. But behind closed doors, little to no progress to speak of. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer drawing backlash today from Republicans after talking to Punchbowl News about the shutdown, saying, quote, every day gets better for us. Schumer later clarifying it's their case for health care that is getting better. And just this morning, a stunning moment live on C-SPAN, the wife of a U.S. military member confronting the Speaker of the House, worried about how a holdup of military pay could affect her family.
I have 2 medically fragile children. I have a husband who actively serves this country. He suffers from PTSD from his 2 tours in Afghanistan. If we see a lapse in pay come the 15th, my children do not get the medication that's needed for them to live their life, because we live paycheck to paycheck. And as a Republican, I'm very disappointed in my party, and I'm very disappointed in you, because you do have the power to call the House back. You did that, or you refused to do that just for a show. I am begging you to pass this legislation. My kids could die.
Samantha, I'm so sorry to hear about your situation. The reason I've been so angry this week, and they've been calling me out on media, Johnson's angry. I am angry because of situations just like yours. Chuck Schumer and the Democrats are preventing your family from getting the care they need, not Republicans, and my heart goes out to you.
All right, joining us now tonight from Washington is the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, a Republican from the great state of Louisiana. Speaker Johnson, we thank you for joining us here and taking time to speak with us. Listen, I give you credit for coming out here. You've been doing numerous interviews on every network, including ours, and you took that call from that military family. That can't be easy to hear those types of calls. I do want to start with the issue of military pay. NBC News has reporting from two sources that during a call with congressional Republicans, you rejected the idea of doing a standalone bill for military pay. What do you say to military families who are incredibly worried about not getting that next paycheck? Why wouldn't you at least try to get a standalone bill together?
Well, I tell them that we're worried about their not getting paid as well, and that's why we already voted to pay the troops. We did that 3 weeks ago almost, September 19th. The continuing resolution that all the Republicans voted for was to keep the government open, to keep military families paid, to keep their veterans' health services going, to keep the Border Patrol and TSA agents and air traffic controllers and everybody else paid at their current levels. Every Democrat in the House of Representatives, except one, voted to close the government down and to stop their pay. Their concern is not with the Republicans. We did that job. It has been sitting on the desk of Chuck Schumer and the Senate Democrats. We passed it out of the House. The ball is in the Senate's court right now, and that's why I'm insisting that they get to work and they open the government so that our troops can be paid.
Speaking of 3 weeks ago, you know, Speaker Johnson, a very prominent member of your Republican caucus, Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia, has been critical of you for not bringing the House back into session. Why shouldn't they come back to work on this?
Because the House did its job. Marjorie's critical of me all the time for all sorts of things, okay? The House did its work. We sent the bill over. We passed a clean continuing resolution. What that means for the folks back home is it's a simple stopgap funding measure to keep the lights on, to keep government operating so that we can finish the federal budgeting to spend the taxpayers' dollars wisely. That was Republicans and Democrats that decided upon the date. We just needed 7 more weeks. I sent over there a clean CR for the Senate to do its work. And by the way, Senator Schumer and the Democrat senators who have now voted 7 times to close the government and cause all this harm voted for the same CR as recently as March. Chuck Schumer was the champion for passing it just 7 months ago.
Speaker, but
identical product, he's saying no now.
Explain to our viewers, though, but why shouldn't they be there working for their constituents there in Washington? Why send them home? Couldn't you guys get some work done, number one? And number two, is this just a political play not to give Democrats any type of momentum?
No, this is House Republicans are doing a huge amount of work. We had a conference call today assessing all of that. They're in their districts right now. What they're doing is helping their constituents navigate the harms that have been caused by the Democrats who are playing political games here and closing the government. Again, they voted 7 times to shut the government down. So our members are in their districts helping, for example, their rural hospitals navigate to get the funding. Republicans passed $50 billion to prop up rural hospitals to support the health care of their constituents, and Chuck Schumer's counterproposal is to claw that back and not spend it. There is really important work being done right now, and we'll get back to regular session as soon as the Senate votes to turn the lights back on.
All right. The Democrats are refusing to vote for the spending bill in the Senate because they want to extend enhanced Obamacare subsidies that expire at the end of the year. And yet a survey by the nonpartisan health policy research group KFF found that 78% of adults believe those enhanced subsidies should be extended. That includes 82% of independents and roughly 6 in 10 Republicans. The Constitution requires compromise between legislators, and Americans support what they're asking for. So I guess, Speaker Johnson, my question to you, why not give it to them? And I got to ask, you're a year away from the midterms. Are you starting to sweat this?
No one has made a decision on those subsidies. There's a lot of reforms, probably 100 different ideas on how to improve it. The reason that Obamacare is having to be subsidized is because premiums have gone through the roof. When Obamacare was passed in 2010, they promised that the cost of care would go down. It's risen 60% since that time. There are a lot of ideas on how to reform it and make it better, but you said the key phrase, end of the year. That is a December 31st policy decision. It had nothing to do with keeping the government open on September 30th, the end of the fiscal year, so that Republicans and Democrats can be here to have those debates and figure out how to resolve it. They're not telling the American people the truth. What is a simple truth here is that Republicans have now voted repeatedly to keep the government open, and the Democrats have voted repeatedly to shut it down. They're trying to make a political moment out of this at the expense of real people back home that are being hurt.
Let's
Come and
talk
do your
about,
job, I would say to the Senate Democrats.
Let's talk about those comments that Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer made, telling Punchbowl News that every day the shutdown continues gets better for Democrats. He said he was talking about their health care argument. How do you respond to that?
Yeah, clean up on aisle 5. Chuck Schumer told you exactly what he thinks. He's doing this for his own benefit. He is afraid he's going to get a challenge from the Marxist left in his party. Remember, he's a senator from New York. New York is about to elect a Marxist, the mayor of New York City. He is terrified that he's going to get a challenge to his left flank and he's going to lose his seat. He's been in Congress for 44 years, so he made a calculation. He cannot take the heat from the left of his party, and he decided to pull this political stunt for that reason. One reason alone. Everybody in Washington knows that's what's going on here, and it is infuriating to us that they're using the American people as pawns in this game.
I want to play you something.
We've done the right thing. We've done the easy thing, and it should happen again.
I want to play you something President Trump said just today about cuts he may make during the shutdown. Let's take a listen.
We'll be making cuts that will be permanent, and we're only going to cut Democrat programs. I hate to tell you. I guess that makes sense, but we're only cutting Democrat programs.
So, Speaker Johnson, these are programs that may impact real Americans. Are you comfortable with the president cutting them along purely partisan lines?
The president has a responsibility to prioritize, triage effectively federal spending. Chuck Schumer decided to turn off the streams of federal funding. So now the administration has to look at that with their own lens and determine which services, policies, and personnel are essential and which are not. They have no choice in the matter. They take no pleasure in that. In fact, I was in the Oval Office with President Trump just a little over a week ago. Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries are there, Leader Thune. President Trump pleaded with Chuck Schumer not to play games and not to close the government, because none of us want this to happen. He chose the opposite route. And so he has put the president in the position where he has to make those tough choices.
Well, President
Chuck Schumer is the one that can open the government and stop this.
Speaking of choices the president may make, he has said he's open to permanently laying off or firing some of these federal workers that have been furloughed. Who is the president talking about here? Can you explain that to our viewers?
I don't know. I haven't spoken to him about those details. I do know that he's getting a collection of legal analysis from attorneys who are trying to determine what the law fully provides and how much back pay is provided. But I can tell you where the president's heart is.
Wait, Speaker, but do you support the president firing furloughed workers?
I support, look, we're limited government conservatives, and there is too much inefficiency in the federal government. It's too large. It does too many things. There are programs that probably should be eliminated, but we want federal employees to be protected. I believe we have always followed the tradition. I think it's the law that the furloughed employees of the federal government because of a shutdown should be given back pay. I think that's what's going to happen here. The president doesn't want a single American employee to be harmed. There are good, patriotic people who serve the government, provide all these services for the people, but he has to make decisions about which are the most essential and which are the least essential, and that would be on any president of any party in a situation like this. That is totally unnecessary.
I hear you on the back pay part. It sounds like you want them to follow the law to the letter there to get the back pay, because that's what the law calls for. But about firing furloughed workers, the Wall Street Journal right now has an exclusive report that Senator Thune has lobbied the White House to stop talking about that is not helping the process. Do you agree with Senator Thune on this?
I haven't talked to Senator Thune about that issue. I'm telling you what my position is, and I think this is very unfortunate. I think Chuck Schumer holds the keys to the kingdom here. I think that he could get at least 5 Senate Democrats to come to their senses and do the right thing, to do what they have always done in the past until they wanted to oppose President Trump. Do the right thing by the people. Put your politics aside. Let's everybody get back to work here.
Speaker Johnson, if the politics is the reason, right, and say Democrats are holding out for this, are you worried that this is going to scar you going into the midterms? Again, we're just a year out from Americans going back to vote for the House.
Not at all, because the truth is a very powerful thing. And as John Adams said, facts are stubborn things. Everyone will look back on this and analyze what happened. Republicans did the good faith thing, the right thing by the people, and voted to keep the government open. And the Democrats voted over and over to shut it down, period, end of story. That's what's happening here.
Yeah, you know, the House can be a complicated place. There's so many laws there. Things are kind of strange for people who don't follow it day to day. For our viewers here, Speaker Johnson, explain this one to us, right? I want to ask you about the Arizona Democrat, Adelina Grijalva, who was elected to fill her late father's seat in Congress last month. You've not set a date to swear her in just yet, saying she was elected after the House was out of session, but she's been elected. Why not get her sworn in?
Because we're not in session, because Chuck Schumer shut down the government. Okay, we had a special exception here a couple of months ago where we had 2 Florida representatives elected in a special election like that one, and we did administer the oath to them in a pro forma session, which is a session where basically no one's here. But the reason we did that, very different situation, is because they had a date specified and scheduled. They brought in all their family and friends and supporters, and they were the ones here. So as a courtesy to them, we went ahead and administered the oath. Representative-elect Grijalva is a very different situation. She just won her special election after the House was out of session.
But I just want to ask you real quick.
The day we get back, as soon as we return, we'll of course administer the oath to her. That's the tradition here.
Yeah, because people are saying she may be the 218th vote on that discharge petition to force a vote on the Epstein files. You're saying it's just pure coincidence that she's happened to be delayed, right?
Yes, and look, everything to Democrats is about Epstein here every day. It's a moot point. The House Oversight Committee, in a bipartisan fashion, is investigating the Epstein matter and releasing the files. Subpoenas are flying. They're being complied with by Department of Justice and others. And we have the Oversight Committee lawyers in New York City combing through the Epstein estate files, things that were never even anticipated before. There will be maximum disclosure there. The only thing that will be protected and redacted is the name of the innocent victims who have already suffered so much harm. We have to protect them. We have a duty to do that.
Speaker, I know we have to go. I know we have to go. Any advice to Senator Thune to get those 5 holdout Democrats to vote with the Republicans in the Senate?
My advice to Senator Thune is continue to do it. Put the bill on the floor. It's a simple, clean CR. The advice is to Chuck Schumer, stop playing games with real Americans' lives. It's a very serious matter.
Speaker Johnson, we thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you so much.
Top stories news feed, and we start with a massive fire ripping through a shopping center just outside of Boulder. The fire erupting early this morning. Authorities say the shopping center has between 15 to 20 businesses, and nearly all of them, as you can imagine, destroyed or damaged. Nobody was hurt, thankfully, but the fire sparked evacuation orders and road closures. And right-wing conspiracy theorist Alex Jones asking the Supreme Court to block an almost $1.5 billion defamation judgment. It's centered around his false claims that the 2012 Sandy Hook school shooting was a hoax. Jones saying he needs the court to step in because his website InfoWars is on the verge of being turned over to satirical news site The Onion. The justices are set to discuss his appeal in private tomorrow. And an update on a poisoning case in Connecticut. This is a strange one. Kristen Hogan, appearing in court today, she's accused of trying to poison her estranged husband by pouring the chemical found in antifreeze into his wine. Court documents show she confessed to adding the poison, telling detectives she never intended to kill him, but just wanted to make him sick as payback for being mentally abusive. So far, she has not entered a plea. And a warning for anyone on Discord, a messaging platform popular with gamers. The company says around 70,000 users may have had their photo IDs leaked after a third-party service got hit by a cyber attack. The leaked data reportedly may also include personal information, partial credit card details, and certain messages we're told impacted users will be contacted and that law enforcement is investigating. WNBA star Angel Reese is officially getting a pair of wings, becoming the first pro athlete to walk the runway at the Victoria's Secret fashion show. The Chicago Sky player announcing her new Angel status on Instagram, saying she's, quote, stepping into a dream. Reese will debut her wings at the show next week. We're back tonight with a major update on a case we brought you earlier this week, the execution of Robert Robeson, halted by the highest criminal court in Texas. Robeson was sentenced to death for the killing of his young daughter in 2002 in a shaken baby syndrome case. But now new information, including evidence featured in Dateline's podcast, The Last Appeal, leading to a possible chance at a change for Robeson. NBC's Lester Holt has the update.
Tonight, in a stunning ruling, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals has put Robert Robeson's October 16th execution on hold. Are you guilty?
A lot of people think I'm guilty or believe I'm guilty, but I'm not. I'm not guilty.
Convicted in 2003 for killing his 2-year-old daughter, Nikki, prosecutors focused on a shaken baby syndrome diagnosis. The 58-year-old has always maintained his innocence. Did you harm your daughter, Nikki, in any way?
No, sir.
Now his case goes back to the lower court for review. The ruling centers on another man's conviction on a shaken baby diagnosis in Texas that was vacated. That man, Andrew Rourke, spoke to us in a new Dateline NBC podcast.
It doesn't make any sense that mine and his cases being so similar and me being on this side of it and he's still facing death.
Roberson's defense has argued that the science behind his conviction was outdated.
The good news is we live to fight another day. The bad news is the fight that has been so protracted it is not over.
The Texas Attorney General has stood by Roberson's conviction and has insisted that Nikki died from blunt force trauma. NBC News has reached out for comment but have not heard back. Roberson's case has garnered support from a bipartisan group of Texas lawmakers, some even visiting him in prison this week. Now, Roberson's lawyer says they are anxious to get this case back in front of a judge. Lester Holt, NBC News.
And you can hear much more of Lester's reporting on the new Dateline podcast, The Last Appeal. All episodes available now wherever you get your podcasts. Moving overseas with Top Stories Global Watch, President Vladimir Putin now says Russia's air defense were responsible for downing a passenger plane last year that killed more than 36 people. He says the missiles were targeting a Ukrainian drone but ended up exploding near the jet, causing it to crash in Kazakhstan. This is the first time Putin has publicly claimed responsibility for that incident. He says he plans to punish those involved and give compensation. And scary video out of Japan showing a woman getting attacked by a bear. Look at this. You can see the bear chase her down from behind and jump on her. It apparently happened while she was out for a morning walk. The bear eventually ran off, and a car driving by picked her up on the street. Local media reporting the 82-year-old was taken to a hospital, but thankfully she only suffered a few scratches. That is good. And the NBA is heading back to China for the first time since a controversial split back in 2019. The league is set to hold 2 preseason games in the gambling hub Macau, one on Friday and the other on Sunday. It's also announcing a partnership with Chinese tech giant Alibaba. The games come after the NBA and China had a falling out over pro-democracy protest in Hong Kong. When we come back, the 2 popes. Pope Leo meeting the school kids from Chicago who staged their own conclave, sharing a moment with little Augie, who was selected pope by his class. Our reporter was right there when it happened. What those kids had to say after that divine moment. Next. Back now with a pint-sized papal audience, students from Chicago traveling all the way to the Vatican to meet with Pope Leo after holding their own classroom conclave. NBC's Chicago's Mary Ann Ahern was there for the kids as they met the Pope and spoke to them just moments later.
With white smoke and much fanfare, students from Our Lady of Mount Carmel Academy in Chicago held their very own mock conclave back in May.
It was just a little idea that we had to do this conclave.
To be honest, I was a little nervous. I had no idea that our mock conclave was gonna lead to us literally going to Rome to meet the Pope.
But dressed in their homemade cardinal costumes, that's exactly what happened.
I mean, it was just a surreal moment. I mean, I'd never think of shake the Pope's hand and have a talk with him and actually meet him up close.
Really cool that he was actually from Chicago.
The student's own Pope even exchanging headwear with the real pontiff.
And he wore my hat for a bit and then gave it back to him.
It turns out they have a lot in common.
He was from America, first American Pope, and he was from the Augustinian Order, and my name is Augie.
Our Lady of Mount Carmel Academy's Dominic Moretti hatched the mini conclave lesson.
You know, one thing just kind of led to the next, and it started to feel like this was meant to be.
The school now savoring this moment in the spotlight.
And we hope that it brings a little joy, whatever that joy is, to people, and it brings people together.
Camina más rápido, mi amor. Luciano Perez even meeting a member of the Swiss Guard.
Most people are waving at me and giving me high fives.
all part of a trip these students will never forget.
It broke my heart to see everyone crying and clapping and cheering for all of us, and it broke my heart.
Thanks so much for watching Top Story. I'm Tom Llamas in New York. Stay right there. More news on the way. We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.